Welcome, everyone, to AI Podcast, episode 145. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, good to be here. We've got a really fascinating story today.
We absolutely do. Imagine for a moment a future where your smartphone, that thing glued to your hand, just isn't necessary anymore.
Right.
A world where an intelligent AI assistant lives subtly on your clothing, always there, screenless, ready to help. That was the truly grand, almost sci-fi vision behind the Humane AI Pin.
And today, that's exactly what we're digging into. Welcome to our deep dive on the curious case of the Humane AI Pin. It's a story that kicks off with just unprecedented hype
Massive hype.
and ends, well, at least for now, with some pretty stark but really valuable lessons in tech innovation.
Our mission, really, is to understand how this device, which was so anticipated, backed by tech giants, former Apple stars who literally designed parts of the iPhone,
The actual iPhone interface, yeah.
how it went from being hailed as the future to facing this just widespread, sometimes brutal criticism, what actually went wrong.
And maybe more importantly, what are the big lessons here? For us, for you listening, anyone trying to make sense of the tech world, there are some genuinely surprising facts and some real aha moments in this story.
Definitely. Okay, so Humane Inc. They burst onto the scene with this incredibly bold claim. We're going to make the smartphone obsolete.
Which is
Yeah.
quite a claim.
It's huge. They pictured this sleek, screenless AI wearable, something that just integrates into your life, lives on you, doesn't demand your attention like a screen does.
And the people behind it, the pedigree was, well, kind of jaw-dropping. You mentioned Imran Chaudhry,
Right.
a principal designer on the original iPhone interface,
Yeah.
and Bethany Bongiorno, who actually led software engineering for huge projects like iOS and macOS.
So these aren't just random tech folks. These are people who built the foundations of the devices we use every single day. When they left Apple in 2018 to start Humane, it wasn't just another startup. It signaled this massive ambition, like they'd found the next big thing.
Exactly. And the core vision for the AI Pin itself was super clear and super ambitious. It was designed fundamentally to replace your phone,
Replace it.
run entirely on AI,
Yeah.
no screen at all, voice activated, gesture responsive, discreet. The idea was this continuous, unobtrusive link between you and AI.
And this wasn't just some dream sketched on a napkin. They got serious backing. Unprecedented backing, really.
Over $230 million in funding.
Just staggering.
And look at the investor list. It's a who's who.
Yeah.
Sam Altman from OpenAI, Mark Benioff. OpenAI itself invested.
Plus key partnerships, right? Qualcomm for the chips.
Yep, cutting-edge processors. And Microsoft for cloud services. This wasn't just funding. It basically cemented Humane as the darling of the AI hardware movement, as people called it. Everyone was watching them.
The tech world really couldn't stop talking about it, and for years, Humane operated in this deep stealth mode.
Which just built the buzz, right?
Totally. It amplified the curiosity. What were they cooking up behind closed doors? The secrecy fueled this massive anticipation.
Then came the big reveal. Imran Chaudhry's 2023 TED Talk. That was the first time the public really saw it in action.
And it wasn't just slides, it was a demo. We
Yeah.
saw the device working, projecting things, responding, seeming to understand. It looked like the future had landed.
And what really grabbed people, I think, was how futuristic that interface seemed in those demos.
Amazing.
They showed off real-time speech translation.
Amazing.
Imagine speaking English, and it just translates on the fly.
Yeah.
And that laser projection,
Yeah.
displaying info right onto your palm, it felt like magic.
It did.
Plus, it seemed to understand natural language prompts really well, powered by OpenAI's models. And even little details like the privacy light, the device lighting up when recording felt thoughtful.
The media reaction was immediate, intense. You had outlets like The Verge, TechCrunch, just breathlessly reporting on its potential to end the smartphone era.
Big words.
Huge. And what stood out was this wasn't just another smartwatch or AR glasses. It wasn't an earpiece. It felt genuinely new. A real attempt at a paradigm shift, not just tweaking an existing device.
That feeling of novelty, of something truly groundbreaking, that's what built the initial excitement, this bold experiment.
But then the moment of truth arrived. Reality checks in. The Humane AI Pin officially launched to the public in November 2023.
And the price tag wasn't small. $699 for the hardware,
Okay.
plus a mandatory $24 per month subscription.
Oof. Okay, so what was the pitch for that cost?
The pitch was compelling. An intelligent assistant, knowledge retriever, call handler, translator, all without a screen. It sounded like the ultimate seamless AI companion you wear.
But the reality for the early buyers and reviewers, it hit hard. really hard. That initial wave of excitement just
It
crashed.
is a fast turnaround.
Incredibly fast. The tide turned decisively. From hype to, well, disillusionment.
And the aha moments for users, often painful ones, came thick and fast. The performance, compared to those slick demos,
Yeah.
jarringly different.
How so?
Well, think about it. You're promised this hyper-responsive AI, but basic commands were apparently taking several seconds just to register, let alone execute.
Oh, wow, that breaks the whole flow.
Completely shatters that illusion of instant AI help. That sluggishness was a huge frustration. And then, the battery life. Or really the lack of it.
Right, I heard about that.
Reports of just a few hours with moderate use, which makes it kind of impractical if you expect to wear it all day.
Yeah, definitely. And it wasn't just speed, was it? The voice recognition had issues.
Big time,
Yeah.
especially with background noise. It would just disrupt inputs, making basic interaction unreliable. You're repeating yourself, talking clearly, and nothing, where it misunderstands. Super frustrating.
And then the utility itself, the lack of a screen. That seems like a fundamental hurdle for things we do constantly.
It really was. Basic stuff like navigation or messaging became incredibly difficult, almost impossible sometimes. How do you find your way without a map you can actually look at consistently?
Right. Or just quickly check a message.
Exactly. And that laser projection? Cool idea. Futuristic in the demos, but in reality, often unreliable. Hard to read in different lighting. Not really a substitute for a proper screen.
And what about just wearing it, using it in public?
That was the other thing. The sort of awkwardness factor. People felt weird talking to your chest in public, then waiting for that delayed AI response, or holding out your hand awkwardly for the projection. It just felt unnatural for many. Not seamless at all.
So the reviews started coming in.
They were brutal.
Yeah.
Just brutal. The Verge famously called it a beautiful failure.
Ouch. Poetic, but ouch.
Yeah. But maybe the biggest hit, the one that really cemented its reputation, came from Marquise Brownlee, MKBHD. Huge tech YouTuber.
Everyone watches his stuff.
Tens of millions. He delivered what people called a brutal blow, saying it was the worst product I've reviewed in a long time.
Wow. That's about as bad as it gets from him.
Pretty much. That statement, with his reach and credibility, really sealed the deal for public perception.
Okay, so we really need to unpack this. Because you've got the pedigree, the funding, the initial hype. It seems almost impossible for it to stumble this badly. How did it happen? What went wrong?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the $230 million question here. And what's fascinating is despite all those advantages, there were some really fundamental strategic mistakes. Big ones.
Like what?
Well, first and foremost, I'd say overpromising and under-delivering. Those slick demos, the TED Talk.
Yeah.
They set expectations sky high.
Right. Showed a perfect future.
Exactly. But the real-world performance just couldn't match it. Users got choppy, unreliable, frustrating experiences instead of that seamless magic. That expectation gap is just killer.
Creates instant disappointment.
Huge disappointment. Second big misstep, a kind of hardware-first, use-case-later approach. They built this radical new hardware.
Beautiful hardware by all accounts.
Gorgeous. But they built it before really nailing down the practical, everyday reasons someone needs this specific thing. They were kind of hoping the software still being developed would catch up and define the killer app later.
That's like building a Ferrari before checking if there are roads, like you said earlier.
Precisely. It's a massive gamble. Third, and this is critical, they neglected the human interface. Getting rid of the screen entirely, combined with voice recognition that wasn't perfect, it just left users feeling lost.
How do you interact reliably?
It wasn't intuitive. It demanded this big leap from users, asking them to talk into the air, wait, hope for a projection. Especially when the core AI wasn't even nailing the basics consistently.
And then there's the money side, that subscription.
Yeah, the subscription model felt way too early, asking for $24 a month on top of the $700 hardware for something that reviewers were saying barely worked.
That's tough sell.
An incredibly tough sell. It creates immediate friction, this feeling of I'm paying for something that isn't even delivering yet. It needed to delight people first, then maybe introduce a subscription for added value.
I earn the subscription.
Exactly. And finally, that isolation of stealth mode. It built hype, sure, protected the IP, but the massive downside, very limited real-world user feedback early on.
They missed that critical learning phase.
Totally. By the time the public got it and the real feedback started pouring in, it was arguably too late to iterate on those fundamental design and performance issues. They couldn't pivot quickly based on how people were actually using it or trying to use it.
So this whole Humane AI Pin saga, while dramatic, it's not happening in a vacuum, is it? It feels like part of a bigger trend.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very high-profile example of this larger push towards AI-first hardware, devices trying to break away from the smartphone model, but struggling to find their niche.
We've seen others, right, like the Rabbit R1.
Yep, Rabbit R1 generated a lot of buzz, too, with its unique AI interface idea, but it also ran into similar criticisms, limited functionality, integration issues, and ironically, still needing your phone for a lot of things. Kind of undermines the whole point.
Yeah, if you still need the phone. And there are others, like the Rewind pendant.
Right, that's focused on memory capture, logging conversations, and Meta smart glasses with Ray-Ban, integrating Meta AI for photos and info.
So what's the common thread here?
Well, all these products kind of suggest this industry-wide rush, maybe. A rush to embed sophisticated AI into new physical forms, often before the AI itself, or the user interface for that new form, is really ready for prime time.
So it's a broader challenge than just Humane messing up. It's about finding the right way to make AI useful in hardware beyond the phone.
Exactly. And despite these setbacks, you still feel this strong belief in the tech world that the smartphone interface isn't the final answer for seamless, real-time AI help.
So the search continues?
The search definitely continues for that next paradigm, that true post-smartphone device, because the potential is just so compelling.
What about Humane specifically? What's their response been?
Well, they have acknowledged the criticism, which is good. They're actively pushing firmware updates, trying to improve core things like responsiveness, voice accuracy. They're promising better integrations, more utility down the line.
But it's a tough road back, isn't it?
Incredibly steep, almost vertical. You've got high return rates reportedly, consumer interest has cooled significantly, and the press coverage, well, they got burned by the hype. Rebuilding that trust and momentum needs more than just promises. It needs real, meaningful product evolution, tangible improvements.
Could they pivot, do something else with the tech?
That's definitely a possibility. You could see them focusing on niche enterprise use cases, maybe logistics or specific professional fields where hands-free AI could be genuinely useful, or maybe licensing their platform, their tech to other companies making wearables. Those seem like plausible paths forward if the direct consumer route doesn't work out.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. This whole fascinating, sometimes confusing story. What does it really mean for you listening? Whether you're thinking about starting something new, working in tech, or just trying to understand where things are going. What are the big takeaways here?
Yeah, if you zoom out, the Humane AI Pin story isn't just this isolated failure. It's actually a really valuable guide, almost a playbook, for anyone ambitious in the AI space. Lots of cautionary insights, but also hints about the challenges of real innovation.
Let's break down some of those key lessons for you. First one seems huge. Validate the use case before building the hardware.
Absolutely critical.
Your first job before you build the fancy thing is prove people actually need it in that specific way. Humane kind of built a Ferrari before checking if people had roads, like we said. The tech was cool, but the why wasn't nailed down.
Foundational. Okay, second, manage hype carefully. Hype can get you funding, get you noticed.
But it can bite you.
It becomes toxic if it outruns your product maturity. It sets expectations you can't meet. The classic advice holds, under-promise, over-deliver. Let the product do the talking.
And number 3, the interface matters more than the intelligence. Even the smartest AI is useless if people can't interact with it easily and intuitively.
Right. Humane's beautiful design, that minimalist aesthetic, it couldn't mask a confusing UX.
Yeah.
Brilliant AI needs a brilliant, simple way for humans to use it.
Makes sense. Next, early feedback is invaluable. That stealth mode thing. Maybe not always the best idea.
It has big trade-offs. You miss out on crucial learning. Those MVPs and beta testers aren't just formalities, they're survival tools. They show you the flaws, the pain points, before you launch big and potentially fail publicly.
Okay, another one. Form factor innovation needs clear wins. If you're asking people to adopt something radically new, a whole new way of doing things...
You absolutely must nail at least one killer use case. That one undeniable reason people have to switch. Humane seemed to offer too many ideas and nailed none reliably enough at launch. You need that anchor.
And the subscription model again, don't launch a subscription until you've earned it.
Yeah, people pay for ongoing value, but they need to feel that value first. Subscriptions should feel like a natural upgrade, something extra for a product you already like, not a toll booth at the entrance to something still finding its feet.
Good point. Okay, 2 big ones left. First, AI isn't magic, it's iterative.
So important to remember. Even plugging in powerful models like OpenAI's isn't enough. AI needs constant tuning, refining, context. The real magic is often in handling the edge cases, the tricky bits, and those only surface through real usage. It's a journey, not a switch you flip.
And finally, maybe the most important for survival, be ready to pivot.
Absolutely. If your first idea doesn't hit with consumers, you need agility. Can the tech be used differently? Health, logistics, enterprise. Ask those questions early. Building with flexibility can save you from total failure if Plan A doesn't work.
So the Humane AI Pin story, it's this powerful, very public lesson, isn't it? Vision is crucial, that spark is needed, but the execution, the timing, and yeah, maybe a bit of humility, that's everything in the end.
It really is. And as we look at this next wave of AI-first devices coming, it makes you wonder, is the breakthrough going to be another totally new form factor like the Pen tried to be? Or will success come from more subtly integrating AI into things we already use, smarter glasses, maybe even everyday objects?
That's a great question. And maybe the deepest one is, how closely do companies in this space really need to listen to their users to actually shape a future that people genuinely want and will adopt? Something for you to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our deep dive for this episode of AI Podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
And just a quick heads up, our next episode is going to be a special live one this Thursday at 7 p.m. We'll be talking with Dr. Ikrup Kaur, the Secretary of IT and BT for the government of Karnataka. Should be a fantastic conversation, so hope you can tune in for that.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, take care.